I'm joined now by the man who's founded that proposal and sort of driving it, Avi Lewis. Good to see you. One of many, but
it really was 60 people who came together.
You've kind of become the face of it now, certainly here at this
convention.
convention.
I'm trying to be the T-shirt of it.
T-shirt of it
not
as well.
just the face.
So look, let's start right there. Rachel Notley's here. She may not speak directly to the Leap Manifesto. She may have something to say about it in perhaps not so thinly veiled language, but certainly her government, her Minister of the Environment's already out saying this is a betrayal to the voters in Alberta who voted NDP to think that there'd be proposals to shut down the petroleum energy industry in this country,
right,
in this province, and stop pipelines. What do you want to say to them?
Well, first of all, if there was even a shred of evidence that there was anything like that in the Leap Manifesto about shutting down people's jobs, then I would agree with her. There isn't. The Leap Manifesto is literally a vision of a Canadian economy where we care for the earth and care for each other. So the notion that sort of well-meaning First Nations people, trade unionists, environmentalists, anti-poverty activists, refugee and immigrant rights activists would want to walk into people's workplaces and shut them down. I mean, it's just simply not, it's not true. It's not reflected in the document. Yes, the document has one of 15 demands that says no new fossil fuel infrastructure. So that's true. And that's a reflection of the fact that Rachel Notley and the Alberta NDP, they don't have a Leap Manifesto problem. They have a problem with the fact that British Columbia doesn't want those pipelines. They have a problem that Quebec doesn't want those pipelines, and that there's a unity in the Canadian family that most of the provinces, apart from the oil-producing provinces, don't want them. And I feel like we're getting pulled back into this old conversation, which is reflective of this old source of energy and this old decaying infrastructure, that I feel like we can start having a new way of talking about this. Shannon Phillips, the Minister of Environment here, is someone that I've known for more than a decade. I texted her after I read those remarks of hers, and I said, hey, you know, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about this in a different way. I mean, it's not Eastern bastards freeze in the dark Ralph Klein time anymore. The scientific consensus is irrefutable. We have to move off fossil fuels. George W. Bush said in the early 2000s that America's addicted to oil and that needs to change. Guys, right, so, this is not revolutionary.
Let's be clear, the manifesto does say you need to be off fossil fuels by 2050.
That's
right?
That's not in the manifesto. It says that we can be completely renewable. Yes.
Well, same thing, isn't it?
Well, for electricity, it could happen in 15 to 20 years. For the entire economy by 2050, and one of the first demand is that we get that going immediately. This is based on research out of Stanford University by Mark Jacobson, who has done groundbreaking research and actually charted a path for all 50 states of the United States and Canada about how we could do it in 15 years for electricity and 35 years for the entire economy. And there's a network of Canadian researchers and scientists, 60 researchers and scientists across the country, all 10 provinces, who have charted out precisely how we can get to a fully renewable economy. It'll create 1 million jobs in this country, and they'll be good unionized jobs, many of them, that can support families. And the first people who should get them are the tens of thousands of Albertans who have been abandoned by the oil industry in this province.
Why isn't, at least to this point, why isn't the NDP government of this province, of Alberta, buying what you're selling? Listen to what they're saying.
This is a great one where I just get to say, well, you got to ask them. Because I've got an op-ed coming out in the Edmonton Journal, co-written with a number of Albertans on Monday, saying you're going to announce in your budget next week how you're going to spend the proceeds from the carbon price. Don't give a cent of it back to the oil and gas industry that sucked billions of dollars in royalty and bitumen and subsidies and tax breaks out of this province. Put it into putting people back to work. Renewables, according to research from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, investments in renewables create 3 times more jobs than fossil fuels, up to 34 times more jobs than fossil fuels. So if you want to put people back to work in Alberta, which has the best conditions for wind, the best conditions for solar, the best conditions for geothermal, where you have to drill holes deep in the ground, which they know how to do here, the Leap Manifesto is a jobs plan for Alberta, and we're stuck in this old conversation about don't tell us what to do from Toronto. I mean, it's Alberta politics, I get it. My friend Shannon Phillips, her great passion, some Albertans know this, is the roller derby. So if she comes in with the elbows up, okay, that's Alberta politics.
But listen, I mean, she's a close friend. Here's what she said.
I don't know.
Maybe not anymore.
I don't know.
But here's what she said. A lot of people can say a lot of things from their downtown Toronto perch, but in Alberta, our focus is on ensuring that we have got good paying jobs. That's not talking, that's doing.
The voices from Alberta Alberta was overrepresented in the group of 60 people and dozens of organizations that were behind the writing of the Leap Manifesto. There were First Nations from Alberta who were pushing for a much harder document than what ended up, because the Leap is a consensus process. There were all kinds of civil society people from this province, some of whom are now in government, who are in those conversations. So, you know, Albertans have a range of opinions. And for the minister to be going back to the kind of Ralph Klein, you know,
roller derby comments.
Roller derby comments, I totally get it. I just think we're missing an opportunity to talk about how we build prosperity in clean energy, in doing justice for First Nations in Canada, in serving the people who have been abandoned by the fossil fuel economy. We took a ride on the oil roller coaster, thanks to 10 years of Stephen Harper, and thanks to 44 years of Conservatives in this province of Alberta, and we're getting off at the bottom. What do we do next as a Canadian family?
So how do you feel about the allegation that some will make, clearly, that, okay, you've now, here at the NDP Convention and pushing this proposal, and there's a sense, I think, and we heard from Linda Duncan, that the Hall is going to approve this proposal, but we'll see tomorrow.
We'll
see tomorrow. I don't want to prejudge.
A floor fight.
I don't want to I don't want to, because I've seen a lot of them here.
And it's happening here in Alberta.
So that raises then the specter that what we'll end up having is a federal party that's going to take the idea away and talk about it for a couple of years while it gets objected to by a provincial party in Alberta.
So the Calgary Herald and the Edmonton Journal and the right-wing media here in Alberta will present it as the federal party goes, you know, against pipelines and poor Alberta, and they're all attacking us. I actually think it serves the NDP government's political interest to play the old Alberta game of everyone against us. I don't think it's true, but I understand their political motivation for wanting it that way. The way that Libby Davies and Craig Scott and Megan Leslie, former MPs, and I sat down and crafted the resolutions and fought through the prioritization process to get a resolution to the floor tomorrow specifically says that the party embraces the inspirational vision of the Leap, that it's in concert with the party's values, that the analysis of getting off fossil fuels and addressing climate change and inequality together needs to be done by big, ambitious policies, but it says that specific policies should be debated and modified according to the needs of different communities. So if the Alberta NDP wants to embrace the resolution tomorrow, there's nothing preventing them. They can say this pipeline provision is a no-go zone, and the other 14 demands are already, most of them, in the NDP policy book. So there's no need for a real fight here, but I don't know that everyone's communicating on the details.
Okay, but we're stuck on the pipeline, I guess, because we're in Alberta. So the Alberta NDP says, look, the pipeline idea of no more infrastructure, it's a non-starter here because it's Alberta. We can't support that. But it gets the backing, so no more pipelines gets the backing of NDP organizations across Canada. How do you get a pipeline?
All the resolution says is we're going to debate this at the grassroots level. We're going to say what the Leap looks like for the NDP. I mean, it's very, very clear, the resolution, and I know you've read it, does not commit the party to every word of the manifesto. It starts a conversation of renewal within the NDP based on this frame, but not every word of the document.
But there's an end point to the conversation if you want to apply it practically. And so how do you get a pipeline built from Alberta to New Brunswick? They want it in Alberta. Maybe they want it in parts of Ontario. Maybe they want it in parts of Manitoba. They don't want it in Quebec. And so you don't get a pipeline.
Well, I mean, you got
this patchwork of...
This is why we can rip ourselves apart as a country and pit region against region, or we can all do the sensible thing and invest in renewable energy, in energy retrofits, in conservation, bring down our greenhouse gas emissions immediately, and create hundreds of thousands of jobs. It's the low-hanging fruit of economic recovery after banking our entire economy on the extraction of one resource. Even the Alberta government has been saying since it was elected, diversify, diversify, diversify the economy. Honestly, I feel like this is a fake fight. The way we made the manifesto was we brought all these groups together with different interests, and some of them with deep wounds. We got to get labor and environmentalists in the same room, First Nations and everyone else in the same room. There are deep wounds, and we said, let's put down all of our old grievances. Let's talk about them. Let's process them. We spent half the weekend doing that, and then tomorrow, let's talk about what we want to build together. And it's that process that maybe gives a clue of how we could move forward as Canadians.
All right. So thanks very much for your time. Next,
Pleasure.
we'll hear from Rachel Notley and the Deputy Premier, we think, of Alberta will speak as well. And then we'll look forward to that big debate here in the Hall tomorrow.
It'll be interesting.
Avi Lewis, appreciate it.